Hi, you're listening to Immigrant Women Talk podcast, and I'm your host, Galina Bilaeva. This is the place for you to get inspired by stories of immigrant women, to learn about nonprofits that serve immigrant communities, and to listen to entrepreneurs who work with women in developing countries. Subscribe to this podcast and get more inspiration and resources at immigrantwomentalk.org. Hi, I'm Galina Bilaeva, and my guest today is Lisa Curtis, the founder of Kuli Kuli Bar. And this company is on a mission to reduce malnutrition through moringa, one of the most nutritious plants on the planet. And I hope I said that word right. Is that moringa, Lisa?
Moringa, yeah.
Moringa. Okay. So Kuli Kuli was featured in Forbes, San Francisco Chronicle, and other publications. Lisa, great to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Lisa, so when you go to a website of Kuli Kuli, it's clear that your organization is a new kind of organization, a social enterprise. So what do you guys care about at Kuli Kuli?
Oh, we care about a lot of things, but really, I came up with the idea for the organization after serving as a Peace Corps volunteer in Niger, West Africa. So for our international listeners, the Peace Corps is a program of the U.S. government that sends sends Americans abroad, where they volunteer and live with the people at the same level of income. I was making $75 a month, and really try to, help as much as we can and learn as much as we can at the same time. So long story short, I started working with moringa there, was just impressed by the fact that one of the most nutritious plants in the world grows well in very hot desert climates, so places that suffer from malnutrition. And the women I was working with, really the biggest incentive for them to grow more of it was if they can find a way to make an income out of growing it. I'm an American. I have access to the largest market in the world, so decided that I was going to try to sell moringa-based products sourced from women's cooperatives in West Africa and use that as a way to support them to earn a livelihood and then also improve health, by really encouraging them to use more moringa and in their local communities and grow more of it.
Yeah. So is this plant popular throughout West Africa, and all the people know about it?
Yeah, so I was in Niger. I didn't get to travel as much as I would have liked, but I know that it's pretty popular in Burkina Faso, Benin. You find a bit of it in East Africa as well, some in Kenya, and then quite a bit in South America and India too.
Wow, interesting. So, oftentimes when entrepreneurs look back on their experience, they say that, okay, so it makes sense that I'm doing this now, because all of my previous experience led to this. So, do you feel the same way? What kind of experiences could you say that led to
That's
start?
funny because I've been really all over the place. I mean, I've worked in really small nonprofits, and then I worked in the White House for a little while, and I worked in the United Nations Environment Program, and then I worked, in a small village in rural Niger. So I feel like kind of everything I've done has led me to the idea that my way of creating change through market forces, through leveraging market forces for social good.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't say it's been a straight path.
Yeah, okay. Well, that makes sense too, because you kind of realize that, okay, so this is not exactly what I want to do. It should be a little bit different, and then you mix all these things together, and it's just perfect. It's something new and innovative. So, it's also interesting that you were a Peace Corps volunteer, because I mentioned to you that I interviewed other girls and one guy actually, who were also volunteers at Peace Corps, and two of them eventually started a nonprofit organization or a for-profit social enterprise. So it seems that Peace Corps really works to, activate the entrepreneurial spirit in young people. It's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have this experience. You live in a place so different, and a culture so different. And when you come back to the U.S., you don't want to lose that. You know, you want to find a way to stay connected to these people who you've come to view as family.
Lisa, it's also clear that Kuli Kuli is run by a generation of millennials, you guys, and some people don't like them. It's just like there's a huge discussion about millennials, whether they're good, whether they're
Hmm.
not. Somebody complains about, somebody loves them. Have you been criticized for being a millennial? You know, for being an idealist who wants to change the world and the poverty, etc.
It's an interesting question. I think one of the things that we tried to do early on was surround ourselves with people who were older and wiser than us.
Hmm.
So we have a really great advisory board of people who've started socially minded food businesses, people who've done really amazing work in all sorts of sectors, and that is that has certainly helped us to get credibility with some particularly investors who look at a bunch of 26, 27 year olds and say, what do you guys know about starting a business?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, do you prefer to work with to have young people in your team, to have people your age in your team?
I mean, right now we've found that everybody who's really been drawn to work with us has been pretty young.
Hmm.
I certainly love talking to as many more experienced people as I can, and I've got a great group of those folks. But everyone who's been working on Kuli Kuli, and for the most part, right now, most people are volunteering their time, have been pretty young.
Hmm. Your supporters and your investors, your age as well, because I learned that you raised about $50,000 through crowdfunding, and so who's the typical person that invests in your organization?
That's funny. So for our crowdfunding campaign at the kickoff event, we held two different events on different nights, and so one of them was a really nice dinner fundraiser targeted towards older people, and we raised about $7,000 through
Hmm.
that. And then we had a event at a bar, much more targeted towards young people, and raised about $700 from that. So there's
Uh-huh.
certainly a magnitude of difference in terms of who has money that they can donate to causes like this.
Right, right. What is the factor or combination of factors that make Kuli Kuli sustainable?
Yeah, so I think we've we've decided early on that in order to make the most impact, we needed to be sustainable. We needed to be self-sustaining. Sustainable both from an environmental sense, but I think it sounds like you're asking from an economic sense.
Yeah.
And so we've focused a lot of time, and to be honest, I would rather be in a village in West Africa than I would be in a grocery store in America. But right now, it makes sense for us to focus a lot of time in selling our products in the US and making sure that we really get out into the market. So that's where I've been spending the majority of our time, and that's how we're able to keep going.
Hmm. Do you go to Niger sometimes?
I'm planning a trip in the spring, so I'm really excited about that.
Awesome. What are you gonna do there?
Well, we have a bunch of partners. So we have partners in Niger and then also in Nigeria and Ghana. So I'm going to visit all those folks. We have, some different aid organizations like USAID that we've been talking to, and just a lot of different people on the ground who it's great to connect over Skype, but it's even better if you can actually sit down and meet them face to face.
Yeah, sure. So, what were your most challenging situations while starting and running Kuli Kuli so far?
I think one of the most challenging things about getting a startup off the ground, particularly if you don't have a ton of personal wealth, is juggling having a job to make an income and then also working on your startup. So for about 2 years, I was working on Kuli Kuli, but then was also working full time at another startup. And I think it gave me a lot of really good and valuable experience that I'm now using for my startup. But it was hard working 2 jobs.
Yeah, so by the way, what kind of job is perfect for somebody who is working on their own startup on the side? Is it some sort of specific field maybe that can give them this awesome experience to um, and help with their own organization?
I would say there are 2 different types of jobs depending on what level people are at. So I would say if you don't have a ton of experience in the field that you're trying to go in, I would try to work at a company similar to that, and then gain some experience in that field, and then quit and go into your job. If you've got an idea and you've got some traction, but you don't have enough to support yourself, I mean, consulting is a really great way to go, where you're doing work on your own time.
Hmm.
So that's kind of the 2 ways I've seen it.
So, just a few more questions before we wrap up, Lisa. What do you think about unpaid internships, and can we really afford to do that?
I've done my fair share of unpaid internships in school, mostly because I was able to get my college to help out with like a summer stipend. I
Hmm.
think once you're out of school, I would really try to not get sucked into that world, because there's so many young people that often what these companies can do, or nonprofits or whatever, is just have intern after intern make no money and not actually have any intention of offering them a job, because there's just another person after that to fill their place.
Right, right. Uh, Is there some sort of legislation now against that? I heard that.
There is. It's illegal in California. In the U.S.,
To
I think the federal level is also considering a law.
Oh, so it's not legal to hire somebody as an intern and not pay them, right?
Yeah, not if you're a for-profit company.
Okay, okay. So a little bit unrelated question, but I wanted to ask you anyway because you have a lot of experience working in Africa. So coding is becoming more and more popular now. How important do you think it is for disadvantaged communities to learn coding, for example, in Africa?
I think it's very important. I mean, I think if you look at where the U.S. is lacking in skills and where a lot of countries are lacking in skills, it's all in technology, and especially in software engineering. And so learning to code is hugely valuable and can get you a very well-paying job. There are actually a bunch of schools in San Francisco that are 3-week or 3-month intensive coding schools where you pay a bunch of money up front, but then you learn how to code and can come out and go work for Google or someone like that.
Yeah, I heard about that. I think it was $15,000 or something like that for.
Yeah, it is not cheap.
Yeah. Do you code a little bit?
I know some basic HTML. It's been one of my long-term goals to actually code. I had this ideal in my head that once I started working on Kuli Kuli full time, I'd have some free time to learn how to code. That hasn't really happened, but I'm hoping at some point in the future I will be able to actually learn some real coding.
Yeah, yeah, I hope so too. Lisa, those were my questions for you. Thank you so much for your answers and for coming over to talk to me.
Yeah, no problem. It was great talking to you too.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you for listening to Immigrant Women Talk podcast. I would love to get to know you, so come over to immigrantwomentalk.org and leave a comment. Let me know about your challenges, and I will find an expert who will offer a solution. If you would like to join the community of immigrant women, connect with the guests or with me, go to immigrantwomentalk.org. I'm Galina Bilaeva, and I will talk to you next time.